Good afternoon, everybody. We will just give it a minute or so just to let people join, but thank you for being prompt and on time this afternoon. Yes, as Angela has put in the chat, please do introduce yourselves in the chat and let us know where you're joining us from today. Perfect. I think we will get started. So, hi everyone, and welcome to today's webinar. My name is James Corcoran, and I am the head of marketing here at Charity Digital. I'll be your host for today's webinar and would like to give you a very warm welcome to today's session. As we've already said, please do introduce yourself in the chat and let us know where you're joining us from today. Firstly, I'll give a quick intro to Charity Digital. So we are a registered UK charity ourselves, and our mission is to help other charities increase their impact by being more digital. Today's session is called How to Transform Volunteer and Donor Management with Monday.com CRM and will be delivered by Alex Jones, Non-Profit Success Manager at Monday.com. So this session will cover what is Monday.com's non-profit program and how can you apply for 10 free seats? How to get started managing donors and volunteers using their CRM, and learning how easy it is to customize, connect to other work, and integrate with other tools. So just before we start, I want to share a few house rules and pointers for today's session. The session is being recorded and will be uploaded to watch on demand within a week's time. Any slides that are shared together with any resources will be made available to you, so you don't have to worry if you've missed anything. Closed captions are available. So to enable these, on the bottom of Zoom, on the window, click the up arrow next to closed caption and click show subtitle. During the webinar, please ask lots of questions in the Q&A section, which is located on the Zoom menu bar, and then afterwards, Alex can address these at the end of the presentation. If someone asks a question that resonates with you, you can upvote it. So just click on the thumbs up icon and this will upvote it automatically. Finally, if you encounter any sound or image issues, please let us know in the chat and we'll do our very best to get the session back to normal as soon as we can. Now, let me hand over to Alex.
Thank you so much, James. Great introduction and welcome everybody. It really is great to have so many passionate charity folks on the call today. As James said, my name is Alex. I'm going to be the host today. We have 1 hour together today, which should give us plenty of time to have a little look at some of the things we can do on Monday.com and explain how you can take advantage of this pretty amazing offer. And of course, answer as many of your questions as possible. I will do my absolute best to ensure they are all answered. And if there are any unanswered questions at the end of today's session, I'll be able to provide you with some more free resources so you can get your things answered. But hopefully, we'll cover everything today. So, great to meet you all. I'll do a quick intro first. I'm Alex, or Alexander. I'm really passionate about nonprofits and the work that people working at charities are doing. I come from the world of nonprofits and have worked in and around many different organizations in my professional career. And I really do believe that charities out there are changing the world, usually doing it without enough resources. And usually many people are wearing many, many hats, doing a lot of different things at the same time. So if I can make, with the power of Monday.com, people's work just a little bit easier and hopefully a lot easier, I'm doing my job. That's what gets me out of bed in the morning. I really do believe that charities can change the world for the better. Monday.com has a pretty cool nonprofit program. My role sees me working with all of our nonprofit accounts. We have more than 25,000 nonprofit accounts on our nonprofit program. About 80% of them pay absolutely nothing whatsoever. The remaining 20% are, buying extra seats or upgrading here and there, which of course you're always welcome to do. And as well as, working with these large-scale numbers, I do also do occasionally some more kind of in-depth work with individual nonprofits, but this is often what my day job looks like. Some of the kind of big names you can see on screen, I've done more in-depth work with. And a fun fact about me, I'm a massive sporting tragic. You will never find me far away from a New Zealand cricket or rugby game, but I think I've never missed an All Blacks game, as long as I can remember anyway. If anyone else feels the same way about their sports teams, we can bond over that in the chat, perhaps. So that's a little bit about me. Now a little bit about Monday.com. So Monday.com, you may know it as a project management tool. That's what most people know it as. We have over 250,000 paying customers all around the world. And we have a pretty cool nonprofit program. The latest announcement that we're very excited about is that Monday.com is now a multi-product company. And even better, we've been able to include all of those products in our nonprofit program. So until fairly recently, the last few years, Monday.com was a one product company. All Monday.com made was Monday.com, which was great. But they've since kind of started to repackage some of the features and sell them independently to paying customers. But as I said, for nonprofits, for charities, we've been able to get all of these products offered as part of our one standalone nonprofit program. So you now have access not only to 10 free seats on good old work management, which is what they've kind of rebranded good old Monday.com as, but we also now have the ability to offer you 10 free seats on Monday's CRM as well. Now, Monday CRM was admittedly designed really with salespeople in mind, so they can take a lead and nurture it and turn it into a deal, but it works brilliantly for managing donors, volunteers, basically any kind of person that your charity is going to come into contact with. And I'm going to show you how we can leverage Monday CRM to do that. So in fact, although the marketing still says 10 free seats, it's actually 10 free seats on each of Monday's 4 core products. You can see them listed there on the screen. If you are a bigger organization, you can buy extra seats with a 70% discount, which is pretty amazing. And I will explain at the end of the session how you can apply to join the nonprofit program. The first and most important thing to note is you first need to open your Monday.com account. You can do that at monday.com/nonprofits, or if James has a link or Angela has a link, you can post it there in the chat, and I'm sure they'll include that link in the follow-up email. You can click this link to create your account with us. Everybody can create an account for free. Everybody gets 2 weeks to try it out. And then at that point, for charities, you need to apply to join the nonprofit program, which, as I said, I promise I will explain before the end of the session. This is our hook in order to get the free seats. Stick around and I'll show you before we finish. So what I thought we could do to begin is just start thinking a little bit about the best way we want to work with donors and volunteers, kind of agnostic to the technology, right? And if anybody has their own tips, tricks, things you want to share, please feel free to drop them in the chat. I'm sure we have a lot of knowledge in the session today, both working with donors and volunteers. So I think the first thing is around engagement strategy. Here we're really trying, as it says, to minimize the work and maximize the results. And when you're trying to recruit, for example, new volunteers, it's tough going, right? It's almost always going to be much simpler to work with people who are already in your system, who've already been onboarded and trained and know what they're doing, than it is to find new people every time. The same is true of donors as well. If you can get a repeat donor who's got, a bank transfer and they're sending you £20 every week, that's the holy grail, right? Of course, we can keep looking for these, golden geese who can give us 1 or 2 big donations, but having that kind of regular contact is amazing. And in order to do that, the first thing I think is to actually engage with these people, right? You know your donors and your volunteers better than anyone else, but how often do you actually get a chance to ask them those kind of questions? What motivates you? Why are you doing this? You might be surprised by the answer. We often think we know what motivates people, but if you can really hone into that and leverage it to engage with your people, your donors and your volunteers in more strategic ways, I think you're going to get really good results. And that is a easy thing to say and a hard thing to do. Like, when did you last have time just to engage with all of your people in your mailing list? But I think that's the beauty of having a simple system like Monday CRM behind you, is that it streamlines that whole process. It doesn't have to be manual work to do that. And being able to kind of collate those answers and store that information in one place is really important. And ultimately, you want these people to be satisfied, right? A satisfied volunteer, somebody who's feeling fulfilled from their work, is going to come back again. They're going to recommend you to their friends and family. And they're likely to roll in a circle of people with, like-minded opinions on key issues like the ones you're trying to fix. A donor who is seeing the results of what they've given is likely to come back from. So thinking about this strategy of how we engage, I think, is a nice place to begin. The next step then, I think, is around personalizing that messaging. Right? In the old days, it would have literally meant like handwriting an individual letter to every single donor, or picking up the phone and having a call one-on-one with people. We want you to be able to scale. The sky is the limit. I want you to have tens of thousands of donors and volunteers, at least to be able to build a system that could accommodate that if and when you grow to that size. So you don't need to make personalization manual, right? If you have a system behind you, you can automate the personalization, okay? You can send things like automated milestone reminders. I've got here the example of a birthday. If you've got that data about people in your database, your donors, your volunteers, etc., you could set up an automated email. I'll show you how, to say, we notice that today is whatever the day is. We wanted to wish you happy birthday. Okay, it's a nice little touch. It's not going to change your fundraising strategy on its own, but those little connections will hopefully kind of build up the relationship that you have with your donors. And the next time you come to ask them to donate, they'll maybe remember that stuff. Another one would be event anniversaries. Every nonprofit, every charity out there has the International Day of the whatever it is that you're working for. Leveraging those is really great. But I'm also thinking of personal ones. Again, it depends how much you know about your people, but the more you know them, the more you will know, and you can build up a more robust database. So things like organizations who are, let's go with the example of an organization researching into an illness or a disease, okay, the Cancer Foundation. Donors and volunteers at the Cancer Foundation are very likely to have been impacted by this disease. So if you know the dates when, I don't know, they finally got the all clear and they recovered from cancer, in your database, you can reach out to them on those days and say, hey, we're thinking of you. Obviously, this wants to be done in a tasteful way. You're probably not going to ask someone for money the day after the anniversary of a horrible tragedy in their life, but reaching out to them to let you know that you're thinking of them, and then kind of leveraging that in the future, I think can be done in a very effective way. And I think the most obvious one here is to send thank you notes. That to me is like the most basic. If someone's done free work for you or given you money, let's send them a thank you. That can be very easy to miss if you're trying to do it all with spreadsheets or pen and paper. If you've got a system behind you, it's automatic and you never miss one again. Just a couple more tips before we jump into Monday then. This one I think is about a year ago when I was listening to a podcast and I had this light bulb moment when they said, think of your donors as investors. And at first I was like, yuck, no thank you. That's the opposite of what I think of. But the idea was that a donor, just like an investor, needs to see a return on investment. Now, they don't expect stock or dividends or money back, of course. But what they do expect is to see impact in return. That's the most important thing. Nobody wants to feel like they're throwing money into a black hole. So being able to connect the money that they gave you with the impact you're able to have, that's amazing. That's really going to make a donor feel good. So here's the 20 pounds you gave us. Here's the meal we were able to give this family in need, and connecting the two is not always that straightforward, right? Nobody wants to do the unsexy stuff, give you money to pay for the electricity bill in your office, but it's got to be paid. But wherever possible, connecting the two together is a really impactful way to work. And I think even beyond that, thinking of your donors as investors helps to build up this really honest relationship. Just like a donor gets full vision, just as an investor gets a full vision of what's going on in a paid company, I think a donor, maybe more than we have done in the past in our industry, should be given an insight into the way you're working. If you're sending out a newsletter, for example, and it's packed full of success stories, this we did great, this we did great, this we did great, this we did great, To me, that doesn't build up a kind of transparent and honest vision of the organization. Now, of course, the opposite is not what we're aiming for either. I don't want to hack a newsletter full of all the stuff we messed up, but 3 triumphs and one thing that we needed to work on. Okay, that's good. And showing them what's been done with their money, I think will really help build that trust and accountability between you and your people. And then my final tip is around searching for stories, right? What our nonprofits are doing is amplifying the voice of people who, for whatever reason, don't have the voice they should in society, okay? Whether it's, animals or people who've been abused. These are the people who we want to help, and donors are going to connect and volunteers are going to connect to their stories. Nothing that you can say is going to beat or be as impactful as what someone can say themselves. So it's our responsibility to take that voice and amplify it in a very authentic way. And again, you can use a system like Monday.com to help you do that. It's also surprisingly interesting and easy to experiment with different methods, right? Maybe you've got a tried and true method of recruiting volunteers, but who knows, maybe a digital recruitment form with a free QR code, which you stick up around the neighborhood, might enable you to reach a whole demographic of people you didn't know were interested in your issue beforehand. So be brave, be innovative, be bold, and again, having a system behind you can make that a lot easier. I hope the system that you choose is Monday.com. So before I jump into the platform and actually show you how we can do some of the stuff, I will just take a quick look in the chat to see if there are any questions I can answer before we begin. Great to see people introducing themselves from all over the country. That is great. Okay, perfect. Thanks for sharing the link. Okay, Carl has a good question. We already have an account for the CRM. How do we now get access to work management? And yeah, thanks, James, for highlighting where that should go. But let me answer that question for you now, because it is a good one. So no matter which product you're already working on, if you do have an account on Monday, you can click up here on the 9 dots, top right-hand corner, and you can switch between the 4 products. It's really that simple. Click of a button. It may say something like, start 14-day free trial. Okay, that's a message you can safely ignore. If you are on the nonprofit plan, then you do have access for all of these for free. The system may not quite understand that even though you're not paying anything, you don't have to pay for these other products. It might think you're just on a free trial, but you can click on these buttons up here and switch between the products really easily. And you can tell I'm working right now in Monday CRM. If you do work in a different product, it's going to look roughly the same, right? They're all built on the same kind of infrastructure. It's just the features here and there which are unique to the products. So let's take a look. Let's start working on something. Now, I've created a new workspace. That's just like the top level kind of administrative tool, which I've called the Charity Digital Workspace. You can have as many of these workspaces as you want to, and you have full control over who can do and see what within that, right? I can make permissions so that some things are not available to more junior staff, or they can see it but not change it, right? You're fully in control there. And then within a workspace, there's no limit on the nonprofit plan to how many elements you can add, okay? We can add new boards that we just build ourselves, or what I'm going to recommend we do is that we start with a template. And if you visit Monday's template center, you're going to see tons and tons of great templates, which really help you kind of just get started. No matter what field you're in, you'll find something here. All of these templates are available to you for free. You can download as many times as you want. And of course, the place I'm going to recommend we start looking is the nonprofit category. And the one I thought we would work on today is here, the donor management template. Okay, it's a nice, simple template, and it's a great place to get started when working with donors, which I'm sure is a pretty common use case among charities on the call today. So as this is downloading, it may be obvious, but it's important to say, once this is downloaded into my account, any changes I make there are only visible to me and my team, right? No one else is going to see that stuff. The template has been created in my account. And, data security and privacy is absolutely a top priority. We have 250,000 paying customers. About 1 in 10 of those are nonprofits, giving and trusting us with very sensitive data. Monday is compliant with all the big, data privacy regulations, GDPR, and so on and so on. And we don't own your data. We can't even see your data, to be honest. If I log into our backend system and look up people's accounts, I can see high-level statistics, but I can't see the names of things that have been entered in boards. So from now on, only people in my account will be able to see this, but you can invite people to your account, download this template to your account, and then make changes there. Amazing. So this is what's been downloaded over here on the left-hand side. And I'll give you a quick kind of high-level summary of this solution. We won't go into all the depths and nooks and crannies because we also want to cover volunteers later today. But if you have further questions, we can, of course, cover those. So the way the solution is designed is that we have here a board for managing our donors, first of all. And this is kind of our main CRM board, if you like, where we have everybody listed here one time. Okay, this is like our master list. Now, there's several ways that somebody could be added here. I mean, it could be that somebody comes and knocks on the door of your office and says, "Hi, my name is Mr. John Smith, and I want to give you some money," and you can mark him in here as an active donor. That's possible. It's not a super likely thing to happen, but it is a possibility. And of course, it's not a problem to add a new donor this way. Now, more likely is that you've already got a big long list of donors in some other system. Maybe you're taking in donations through a bank, or you've got another software you're using. As long as you can get that list into a spreadsheet, you can upload it directly to monday.com. Up here, there's a little drop-down triangle. I can click on Import Donors, and I can simply drag and drop a file in and basically just match the columns from my spreadsheet to the board, and I'll bring in donors in a couple of seconds. Really, really easy to do. Now, unlike a lot of CRMs, I mean, I won't name names, but Salesforce, for example, is very rigid, right? We can't just add new columns and change labels and stuff. But here, it's quite the opposite. Here, if I want to add a new column, I just click on the Add Column button. If it's important for you to know your donor's physical address, let's just add a location column, okay? It's quite all right. And put in the location like so. If you want to add, we talked about having their birthdays on file, right? If you've got that information, great, let's add their birthdays. We can put that in manually, or if you've got that in a spreadsheet, straight when you upload it, it can bring information into these existing columns, like so. So feel free to add these. We can also play around with the groups. If you have a different flow, not just potential and active, you can also add new groups here. If you want to have a group of, I don't know, past donors, feel free. If you want to delete a group, also completely possible. So you are in control here. Then what we can do is we can click on this little update section. And this is where we start to see some of the unique features only available in Monday CRM. Everything we did so far, you could always do in Monday, and you can still do in Monday's work management tool. But now we are in Monday CRM, and we have this really fancy new view here. First off, let's kind of go around the screen clockwise. We'll start over on the top right. Basic information panel, we can see the information that we've got about our donors here. I can also edit this to pull in more information, like the birthday could be added here if I wanted to. Then it's connected to other boards. So I can see here the list of donations that Madison has given. And we can see she's a one-time donor of $6,500. Over here, we have a list of all the activities that we've engaged Madison in. Now, this is one of those things which often gets put in the too hard pile, right? We're busy working in a nonprofit, got so many people we're trying to see and help, scheduling calls and meetings just to check in with our donors. Yeah, right. Like as if you've got time for that. But having a system here where you can really clearly see what's going on, you can ensure that each donor is being touched, I don't know, once a year, once every 6 months, etc., can just allow you to stay on top of that. And something as simple as an annual call, hey, not ringing you up to ask for any money, we just wanted to check in and see how you're doing, tell you about our work, hope you're doing well, ciao. That could be a really valuable thing to build those relationships, and you can schedule those and track those in here. So if I wanted to, for example, add a new one of these activities, I've got the option to do it right here. And I mentioned a couple here. The standard ones are things like a phone call or a meeting. But imagine that you run a homeless shelter or a series of homeless shelters. To me, a good way to build a relationship with your donors would be to invite them to come and see the work you're doing, to come and have them serve soup or whatever it is you're doing. So we can schedule here a custom action, like I've added a shelter visit. I can then put in my calendar when this should be. Let's say, next week, Tuesday at 11:30 in the morning for half an hour. I can then leave a note so that the whole team knows Madison is an important potential donor team. Let's be sure she sees let's say, has a impactful time. Okay. Now I can even type the @ key and it will bring up the people that I've invited to my account. So I can tag, for example, my colleague Sarah and say, can you please show Madison around Tuesday? Okay. This can also be dynamic or saved as a template. So if this is something which you're scheduling a lot of, you can have this pulled without needing to type that in every single time. So I add this as an activity. It's going to be logged here in this master log where I see everything I've ever done with my donors, all the communication, all the notes and so on. But if I scroll down, it's also automatically added a new entry here to my board. So this is a separate board where I track all the activities and I can see everything that I just added, right? All that information appears here. If I ever need to look at the activity list, see all the things I've got scheduled, I can go to that board and see it all in one place. If I ever want to see the summary of one person, well, I'm in the right place here. So I get kind of the best of both worlds in that sense. So as well as they're adding an activity, the other very interesting button here is the new email button. And as James mentioned at the beginning, Monday is a very easy tool to integrate with other software as well. One of those pieces of software that we can easily integrate it with are email tools. So I've already integrated my platform with Gmail, right? I have 2 Gmail accounts here that I've already synced up, already connected with Monday.com. You can do it a couple of clicks to either Gmail or Outlook. You just need to put in your username and password, and then it allows these 2 softwares to speak to each other. So I'm actually going to be sending an email from my regular, well-known, trusted email account to my donors, and I don't need to leave this platform. At the moment, it's got this powered by Monday logo, but it can be removed. And if I remove it, it will look like any other email that's come from my regular email account. There's no difference there. And I can write freely, hi Madison, how are you doing? Or again, I can make this into some kind of template. Okay. So I could say something like, you've been a great donor. Sure, you'll have much more compelling copy than I have. And instead of saying, hi Madison, I can come down here to the columns and make it be dynamic. I can say instead, hi item name, and it's going to pull in Madison's name. A few too many spaces there if we want to be pedantic. Hi Madison, item name. You've been a donor with us for many years. And I could, again, any field I have in the board, if I've got that information, I can make that dynamic. And we wanted to thank you, blah, blah, blah. Okay, this can then be turned into a template. At any time, a new donor arrives in your network or they meet a certain threshold, you can trigger this template email to be sent and it will pull from the board. This email will also be tracked. Now, this is an amazing feature because usually you need to pay for an expensive email marketing tool to get this functionality, right? Gmail, free version, doesn't allow you to see if somebody's opened your email. But by clicking this box, I can say send. I will now, first of all, see that appear in this thread, see, as a communication with Madison. If Madison replies to this email, I will see her reply here. But I will also see, there we go, this is her reply. Her email address doesn't exist, so it's bounced. But if she had replied, it would appear here. And I can see that full communication in this one place. It means that if somebody gets sick, heaven forbid, or goes on holiday or moves to another charity, that institutional knowledge doesn't go with them. And I can come back here and refer to that thread and see what's going on. Of course, if you want to make something private, you can, but the best way to work, the optimal way, is to see things as a team, right? To not work in silos and instead be able to share this kind of knowledge between you. So that's a really cool feature. It's available exclusively on Monday's CRM. And up here, we can track the use of these mass emails. So I can, I mean, this was just going to 2 people, but I can send big campaigns here and see the open rate and the click rate and so on. A tool which, again, you would usually need to pay a lot of money for to be able to access. You can do it for free just by combining Monday and Gmail, which is pretty cool. Another fun feature that's unique to Monday CRM is we can simply check the box here next to people we want to message. We can send mass emails. So I'm here and send a mass email, and now it's sending to all the people that I've selected at once, which is also pretty cool. A brand new feature, we're kind of upgrading every time, is Monday sequences. And this allows you to build a fully automated flow. Discard this one and make a new one. Connected to your donors board, for example, where as soon as somebody enters into your system, they can be sent maybe an automatic email. Hey, would you like to consider donating to us? Then we can add another step. Maybe we wait 6 months or 3 months, whatever you want. And then we can add maybe a manual email. So this time you do write them personally, something which is a bit more crafted and personal. We can then add rules and notifications so that if, for example, they have already replied to that email, they move out of the automated flow, and then you just start communicating with them one-on-one. The idea here isn't to replace someone working at a charity, right? This isn't going to do the work of a human. It's here to enhance the work that you can do. And if your donors are engaged and they want to speak to you one-on-one, amazing. Let's do that. That's when human-to-human interaction is the best. But building that up and getting to that point can be done with the help of the automatic robots to get you to that place where you can use your emotional intelligence and build even deeper relationships with people. Great. So how are we doing for time? Let's maybe take a quick look at the donors dashboard, which is pretty cool. Dashboards are connected to the other board. So I have a board for tracking their donations, a board for the donors, a board for tracking the activities, and the dashboard is connected to all of them. So I can pull insights from across my account and build up these really nice charts and graphs and widgets. And all of these are already here, right? These are already added, so I don't need to do anything if I like these. And as soon as I add some new information here, it will automatically appear into my dashboard. So for example, if a new donation does come in, let's imagine that Mr. Smith did actually leave a donation. We entered him into our database. We haven't entered his donation yet. He just plonked down in the office and he's a generous guy. He whipped out a checkbook for $10,000. Before you ask, yes, these columns can quite easily be customized. So we can change the currency, for example, to pounds. So we whipped out a checkbook, 10 grand sterling, and I can then enter in who it came from. And by connecting it here to John's profile in my donor database, it will now automatically appear in many places. Here, it will show me that John has donated £10,000. By the way, Phoenix, who's given more than one donation, you can see this is the total of all of her donations. But even more interestingly, it's going to automatically be added to my donor dashboard. So we can see a new entry has appeared without me doing anything to make it appear. I didn't have to go in and update these graphs, right? This just is live. It's showing here the £10,000 that's been added. My fundraising goal is that much closer. I haven't updated this to show pounds, but I easily could do. You can see that John is now almost, the second most generous donor all time. And I can see this huge spike in donations in January. So all of that happened automatically. Now, these reports here are, first of all, very useful for you and your colleagues to actually start planning things. You can see trends and maybe get insights that you weren't aware of before. But other people who love these kind of things, grant providers, board of trustees, and funders, these kind of people go crazy for these visual elements. And there's a couple of ways you can share these with them. On the nonprofit program, as well as having 10 free users on each of the products, you also get an unlimited number of free viewers. So people who can just look around your account without making any changes. Perfect, by the way, for board members who aren't working with you day to day, who want to get a little, summary of what's going on. And you also get an unlimited number of guests. Guests are perfect for volunteers. Cover those in just a moment. This can also be shared externally. So up here, a new feature unique to the CRM is the ability to schedule a report be exported as a PDF. This was always the big downside of taking something out of Monday, is that it wasn't live anymore. And if you were going to a board meeting on Monday morning at 9 o'clock, at 5 o'clock on Friday, you'd have to export your data, and then everything would change during the weekend. You get all these new donations coming in, you wouldn't know about it, and you'd be presenting old data because you had these old PDFs to give to people. Nowadays, we can schedule this to be exported. If for some reason you don't want people in your Monday account, but you do want them to see the latest information, you could schedule this to be sent as an email, attach the most recent copy of these charts to it, and it can arrive in their inbox, let's say every morning or every week or every month at 9 o'clock. So they know the most recent data. Super easy to set up, super cool. All right, so that's a quick look at the donors element. If you have any more questions about the donors part, I'll take some questions in just a moment, but I also wanted to point out some other resources that are available to you. First of all, we have here a Getting Started doc. Now, docs are also free and unlimited on the nonprofit program. You can use these for so many different things, but we've used this doc as a Getting Started guide. So I built this, put it into every one of the templates, and it's packed full of articles and videos. So if you want a little bit more depth, can't figure out how to do something, I'm sure you'll find your answer here. If you can't find any answers to what you're looking for here, you can also click on this question mark, where you will find Monday's help desk. We have hundreds of articles and videos. If you prefer just to, take information in those ways, you can click here on a knowledge base or these articles here. We have an academy course where you can learn how to manage the CRM. And my favorite of all is the ability to chat for free 24 hours a day with a customer support agent from Monday.com. You'll start off with our bot, but you can escalate to a human anytime you like. And honestly, the bot does an amazing job. If it's like platform-specific stuff, how do I add a column? What's the limit of items I can have? The bot knows that better than any human. And we also do have some great resources that are exclusive to nonprofits. If you visit monday.com/nonprofits, you're going to find out everything you need to know about the nonprofit program. And you know what? As we're here, I'll stop teasing you. I will explain how you can apply to join the nonprofit program now. Monday.com/nonprofits/eligibility. This is the place to come. You can see our eligibility criteria. We've tried to make them simple and easy to understand and not full of legalese. But yes, clicking on this button here is where you can apply to join the program. Super simple form, takes 3 or 4 minutes to fill out. And I hope that everybody in the call today is eligible. So just to refresh, first step, open your account. You can click on the link that the folks from Charity Digital have kindly pasted into the chat. Step 2, come to this page to turn your account into a nonprofit. Also here is where you will find the other resources that I'm giving to nonprofits for free. In fact, nonprofits don't get less than other users on Monday. They actually get more because we provide webinars and office hours and dedicated nonprofit-specific training around topics that are relevant to nonprofits. All of this stuff here is free. If you do feel like you need a bit more direct kind of one-on-one support, you can also choose to pay for an external partner to give you a bit of a hand as well. So we have a lot of different options, even an online community where nonprofits can help each other. So lots of great resources available here. And I'll make sure that in your follow-up email, you'll get one of these, you get a link to these pages as well. So all the stuff will be in. All right. So let's park the donors piece for now. And I'll move on to talk a little bit now about volunteers. And although there is a volunteer template available in the Template Center, I built a template which I think is better, and I published it in mondayspaces.com, another great resource where you'll find templates built by users. regular Monday people who just want to share what they've done. Everything here is available, you guessed it, for free. Sorry to sound like a broken record. There's also a nonprofit category here. And the template which I love working with when it comes to volunteers is this one. Of course, I would say that I did build it, but there are lots of great templates here, just again, to help you get started. Almost no matter what you're doing as a nonprofit, I feel like here you'll find something that's relevant. So I'm going to click here on use space, and then I'm going to download with this link this solution here. Now I only copied and pasted my link there because I've got some problem with my browser where clicking on a pop-up seems to crash it. So that's why, if anyone was wondering, I did that. If anybody wants to download this solution, you are more than welcome. Again, mondayspaces.com. You can navigate to the volunteers one. We'll also include a link to this in the follow-up email. And whether you download a template from the template center or a template from Monday Spaces, the end result is the same, right? You end up with these templates in your account for you to use and for you to update with your own information. And I think what really sets the volunteers template apart is the ability for your volunteers to use Monday's forms to submit information to monday.com without needing to get a login, a username and password, without needing to even know what monday.com is. They can use the work forms to submit all sorts of things. So on this page, you can see that they've submitted the work that they've completed, okay? On this page, I've tracked the volunteers' feedback. So each time that somebody completes a piece of work, here are the names of the volunteers. They've given star ratings based on the questions that I've asked them, and we can see their answers here. And all of that information streams back to our main CRM for volunteers, our CRM volunteer database. And this is where we list all of our volunteers out, and we can start working with them. Now, unlike the donors template that we saw here, where we were able to enter them manually or upload them, this comes with a ready-made registration form. Now, forms are amazing. I love Monday's forms. Now, I've built here a very simple one. There's a lot of fun you can have. These can be very powerful tools. Monday's work forms are free and unlimited to nonprofits. You can use them to register volunteers. People could use them to sign up for an event that you're hosting. People could, it could be embedded in your website under the, contact us area. So you can have that actually living in your page. Any answer people submit there just appears on Monday, where you can then manage them and integrate them into your wider work. Maybe they're a volunteer and a donor, right? They could be one and the same. So it's a very cool feature. But to take a quick look at this simple form that I've built, I'll click on the Edit Form button to show you the questions and things that I've added, and also some things that I chose not to add, but I could have. Right, I could have uploaded a logo here. There's obviously a lot of things you can do with the design, adding descriptions and fonts. You can have a welcome page. But the interesting thing really are the questions. We can really play with the questions depending on what we need to get out of them. So when I designed this solution, I spoke to a lot of nonprofits, and they told me quite different things depending on who I asked. On the one hand, some people told me it's really blooming hard to recruit volunteers. The last thing we want to do is have a long form with hundreds of questions that people give up on halfway through. So if that's the way you feel, take a look at how simple this form looks. Just a couple of very basic questions: name, email, phone number. Are you ready to enroll right now? Couldn't get much simpler than that. On the other hand, I also know people who told me just a generic volunteer, although they mean well, it's actually not that useful for us. What we really need is someone very specific, okay? I made up an organization for the template. It's an organization in Australia where volunteers can teach science to kids after school and in the weekends, okay? And probably someone working in that organization wants a volunteer who's qualified, who's got permission from the government to work with kids, who maybe is able to drive a van or a bus, who's available at very specific times, And we need to know all of that information before we can decide if you're even an interesting volunteer. So if you have a more complicated need when it comes to forms, we have the ability to have conditional logic. So if they say, yep, I am ready to go right now, boom, all these other questions appear. And you can see there's all these different question types. So we can have drop-down questions where you can pick more than one value. We can have single select questions where you can only pick one. Address questions where we can actually put in our address in a specific way that we can then map on a Google map, see the answers. Let's actually keep filling this out. So I've got some data to play with. Valid phone number. How many characters should there be? Let's just do date of birth. Okay, interesting. These ones here have a required icon. These other questions, I chose not to make them required. So I don't have a date of birth in here, but I don't have to put in a date of birth rather. So let me put in a really extreme answer just so we can see what it does to our data. You can have them upload images right here, files, if they've got, to upload a driving license or a first aid certificate. They can have a signature panel. These forms are so easy to be filled out, and they can be filled out by people on a phone, on a desktop. You really don't need to be very tech savvy to use these. As long as you can click on a link and fill out what they're asking for, you're good to go. So you know what, let's submit this for now, and I'll show you where this arrived in my Monday account. Here's my main table, and there is the new volunteer already appearing in the list. Pretty cool, no? So here is all the information about this volunteer. Just like with the donors example, we can play around with this. Yeah, we can add new columns if we want to. We can delete things if they're not relevant. And in our volunteers dashboard, we are going to see a summary of all of the things we know about our volunteers. And because I just filled out a new answer, that new answer should already appear here automatically. And that's why I put in some kind of crazy numbers like I was born in 1900, because I want to see that it's already updated that, and my average age should be very high. It's taking a while to load, but let's just give it a second. It is a pretty heavy dashboard, to be fair. I'm pulling a lot of data from all these, but give it a moment. You know what we can do? We've only got about 10 minutes or so left. So let me open up the chat and the Q&A, and we can see if people can we can get through some of the questions that people have asked. Okay, cool. So the most recent question, but I can answer that first because it's here from Gillian. How do you get the volunteer form for them to complete? So I'm happy to answer that first. Maybe I need to refresh this page as well. Let's go back to volunteer database. Okay, perfect. I'll answer the question in just a moment, Gillian, I promise. But here we've got the dashboard. I don't know why it didn't load the first time, but pretty neat, no? It looks great. All the information is really up to date. You can see I've got a new new volunteer who's just added in his name here, kind of skewing my data, spiking up my average age. But you can see a nice summary here of your volunteers very clearly. This is one of my favorite features, the ability to see on a map where people live. And this could be their address, or maybe it's, again, using the example of the homeless shelter from before. Maybe this is where you operate shelters and you can make decisions based on this. Maybe you clean up the environment and you can track all the places where you've worked on beaches. You can also see my address. I think I said I was in Perth. Yep. So there is a pin added here. I didn't have to go in and tag myself. I didn't have to look for that. The system put it there already. And the system is smart enough to understand real addresses, postcodes, cities, states, countries. You can even put in digital GPS coordinates, which is pretty cool. All right, so back to Gillian's question. How do we share the form? It's a great question, and I really should have answered that, so I'm very glad that you asked it, Gillian. There are several ways we can share the form, okay? Here is the option button. The easiest is just to take a link. Every single form on Monday comes with its own unique link. It can also be shortened if you want to share it in a WhatsApp group or in Facebook or something. Having a shorter link, making it more concise will be helpful. You can then just copy it and paste it. That could be put into an email. Maybe you send an email campaign like we saw earlier to all of your donors with this link in it, asking them if they want to volunteer. Pretty neat, no? But there's other ways to do this as well. You can directly share it to various social media channels. You can take a little bit of embed code, just copy and paste that into your website. It does not require a computer programmer or a developer to do that. It's really, really easy. We can also, by the way, customize the look, the color, the font, the design of the form so that it really fits your nonprofit's kind of branding and feel. But my favorite way to share the form is using the QR code. Right? I mentioned this way back at the beginning of the session. I actually do know nonprofits who work in the field of homelessness alleviation, who literally printed these out and stuck them on lampposts around the neighborhood. People could then walk around, they see it, whip out their phone, scan the QR code, it had a sign saying, you want to help clean up our neighborhood, you want to help homeless people, whatever. They could then put in their information, and right then and there on the location where they're engaging with this issue, they're able to respond to it. If you're working out of a church hall, this could be on a screen. There's a lot of ways you could share these, but a very easy way to engage with people, and they are free. Every single form comes with a unique embed code, URL, and QR code as well. So yeah, great question, Gillian. Thank you so much for asking it. Okay, Hazel asks, can people be in multiple groups? Which is a great question. I presume you're referring to back here, the volunteer database, or maybe the donors where they had, what did we have in the donors? We had active and potential. So I wouldn't recommend that somebody is in multiple groups, but from a technical point of view, it's not a problem to do that. Right? If I was to, duplicate Alex Jones, I could have multiple entries here. Even delete the word copy. One of them can exist in incoming volunteers, and one of them can exist in approved volunteers. So from a technical point of view, absolutely, that's not a problem. But obviously, if you're trying to work with donors and trying to work with volunteers, it really makes sense not to do that. You want to try and keep things stable and organized. If, by the way, you've got an issue with duplicates in your data, we do have a manage duplicates feature available up here in more actions. So I can say, look to see if there's any duplicates in, for example, the email column. Should find just one. There it is. I can pick which one I want to keep. Doesn't really matter for me because they're identical, but you get the idea. And I merge the items. And if you need to connect items across boards, that you can absolutely do. So, for example, here we have, Nikola Tesla, the volunteer. Okay, this is his entry in the volunteer's profile. But over here, I have Nikola Tesla and his feedback. So here's actually 3 pieces of feedback. So Nikola has given this feedback. I'm not going to bother entering Nikola's phone number and address and all that kind of stuff here. I don't need that here. All I've got is the relevant information from the form where I requested this feedback. And then I connected the feedback to his profile. Just the same system we use, by the way, in the donor management system. We have one board for the donors and one board for the donations, and they can be connected. So I think hopefully that answers your question one way or another there. All right, Carl. Cool. Carl did already answer that question. Another question in the Q&A from Hazel is about the ability to witness. I'll read it rather than trying to paraphrase. Hazel asked, is Monday accessible for the visually impaired or people with screen reader software? The answer is yes, it is. Can I, for the life of me, remember how that is done? I remember there is an article written out there somewhere about this. You know what I can do? I can offline, I can have a look and see if I can find this article, which has like tips and stuff for helping that to be done. Because I don't remember offhand, but yes, it is possible.
Yeah, we can include that in the resources when we send the email around afterwards.
Perfect. Cheers, James. Yeah, I love that. One thing you can do, it's not the same as exactly what you're asking, but there are some features like, for example, increasing the item height, right? That makes it a lot easier for people who have got like visual impairments to read everything just a bit bigger. I've also got my screen quite zoomed in. I tend to like it like that, but if you don't have good eyes, you can easily zoom it in there and then you can really see stuff super clearly. So it's up to you kind of how you work with that. All right, my friends, just a few minutes left, but I will try and answer all the remaining questions. One comes in here from Nina. How much is a non-profit user fee? So I guess I didn't say it enough times, and I'm happy to say it again. Monday.com for non-profits is free. Really is truly free. As long as you have up to 10 users, you pay absolutely nothing, nothing at all. If you want to buy extra seats, it comes to $5.90 per seat. I can open it up here. In the pricing page, per seat per month with the discount. Here is the pricing page. I think it's going to give it to me in dollars, but if you're logging in from the UK, it'll probably understand and through your IP address give you the price in pounds. So yeah, for 15 seats, it would be $68 per seat per year or $342 totally for all of that across all those products, which is, yeah, pretty amazing with that big 70% discount. Okay, someone anonymous asks, can we integrate with Xero for our donation? So in terms of integrations in general, I'm happy to say that Monday integrates with tons of different software, and the integration center is here. If you click on more integrations, you will see everything that we've already built free organic integration with. All of the software Monday provides integrations with. You already saw some of them. Gmail, for example. Stripe is a big payment processing app. So if you want to have your donations come to your Stripe account for free, it can be duplicated. That information can also appear in Monday. So very easy to do that. For software that doesn't appear on this list, like Xero, we also have an app marketplace. Okay, Monday has an open API, meaning that smart people can build their own integrations between Monday and other software. And there is an integration in the app marketplace between Monday and Xero. Only thing to note is that it's not built or provided by Monday. So there may be additional costs to use it. But all those ones that I saw in the integration center there, they are provided for free. And a lot of the ones in the app marketplace are also free. There's often non-profit discounts there as well. But yeah, you can also visit the marketplace by clicking on that little puzzle piece. I'll show you the Xero integration just very quickly. There you go. Xero for Monday. It's built by a company called Stackfully. So you can, yeah, check them out, see if you like it. They've got their own pricing plan here. You can also, of course, always download a report from a different software and upload it to Monday for free. Basically up to you to decide the cost benefit there of the time it would take to do manually versus the ability to operate here automatically. Great. So, oh yeah, another question about the duplicates there. Yes, when you do the upload of data, I can just show you that really quickly. It already allows you to handle duplicates. Got some test data here I can quickly show you. So right here, at this stage, you can say, don't add duplicates if they're already in there based on the information in a certain column. So, you might well have donors who both have the same information in the status column. Their status might be active. So we wouldn't want to remove duplicates based on that criteria, but you maybe wouldn't want to have donors with the same email address. So yes, right at the moment of the upload, you can skip those items who already exist or override them. It's up to you which way you do it. So yeah, thank you very much for that information. David asks, does the mass email handle HTML or is it restricted to plain text? Yes, it does. That's one of the advantages of using the CRM. In the old days, you could send a fully automated email. You can still do this. I could say something like, let's build it from scratch. When a status changes, send an email. Okay. And in this system, which you can still use, you are restricted to plain text only. But thanks to the new features of the CRM that I showed you, you can use HTML, rich text, whatever you need to use. Here, for example, you can see here, I've got the ability to, do full HTML editing. So you can actually put in here newsletters and really nice graphically designed things as well. Fabulous. Okay. Do we have time for just a couple more questions? I know I'm going to get in trouble with this.
Depends if you have the time. So yeah, we have two final questions. I think maybe we call that sort of the end of the questions, but feel free to finish them. It'll only take a few more minutes to answer those if you are available.
Happy to. Thanks, James, and thanks everyone for sticking around for some bonus content. But yeah, we'll leave it there after this. So someone anonymous just wanted a clarification on what I mean by seats. Think of seats as people who get access to your Monday account, right? They are the regular users who can do everything, your team members, basically. So we give you 10 of those for free on each of the 4 products. So you could theoretically have 40 people all working in Monday if you had 10 or 4 groups of 10 working in completely siloed areas. The viewers and the guests, so people who can access Monday for free, do not count in your 10 free seats. So hopefully that clarifies that. And can things be connected across the different products? That is a great question to finish off with. Thanks for that, Hazel. The answer is yes, absolutely. We can very easily connect things, move things. For example, if I come to the 3 dots here, I can move the board just as easily as I'm moving it between folders and workspaces to a completely different product. It's really not a problem. Using these connect board columns, something can connect across the products. So you could be managing a bunch of volunteers here and connect this to a project management board to show all the work that your volunteers are doing. That's not a problem at all. There's really no issue working across the products. They are one and the same in terms of their infrastructure. So yeah, great question. I'm happy to wrap it up there. Thanks very much, everybody, for joining us today. Some great questions. I hope everybody's got access to that link and you can join me as part of the Monday.com charity family. And thanks very much to Charity Digital and to you, James, for hosting us today. I've had a great time.
Yes. Thank you so much, Alex. Very concise with those final 2 questions. We haven't run over too much, but all very useful questions. So, glad to get them answered. So thanks everyone for attending. We've got plenty more events coming up, including our AI Summit on the 12th of March, which is an in-person event at Microsoft's offices in London. So a link for that will be going in the chat as well. Finally, if you could share your feedback with us, that would be fantastic. It's really important for us to continue to develop our webinars, so your opinion is really, really useful. Thank you, everyone, and hopefully see you soon. Thanks, Alex.